Welcome to another Kristen and Charlie chat, where we are going to dive in to the foundational principle that everything you see and learn here on the Successability channel is based in. Now, I'm going to warn you, it's a little bit of tough love, because what you need to understand that we're going to break down for you today is you are the only one responsible for your life. Let's dive into that. All right, everybody, this one is all about you, not blaming anybody else. This is all about what you have in your control to make your life go the way that you want. It is taking 100% responsibility for your life. Charlie, give us the formula for success here that we're going to base everything else in.
Okay, no problem. The formula. I just want to reemphasize foundation. It's everything we do is built upon this, because without this formula, without this ability to respond to the events in our lives so we can enhance, change, improve our outcomes, well, then really nothing else matters, because we just become blame throwers and complain and we rationalize why things are the way they are. We justify. And a good one I was at was defending my position. And then here's a big one, excuses. Making excuses for why whatever. And there's a formula that I learned back in 2008. I was sitting at a Jack Canfield Breakthrough to Success seminar. And I'm sitting there, and this is 7 days in Scottsdale, Arizona. I had never done anything like this. For 7 days, I left my business and my family, and I sat in a room with 400 and something people. And he introduced it on day one. All right, this seminar is not going to be you sitting there and taking notes and me talking. This is going to be interactive, and we are going to work together. And I'm like, oh, I don't know why I came. I just want to hear him make me better. And this formula he introduced was E+R equals O. So I'm like, E+R equals O. What is that? Well, the events in our life, how we respond to those events, equals the outcomes we have in life. And then he said, and what do so many of us do if we don't like the outcome we're having from an event? We blame the event. And I'm like, well, of course. I mean, why wouldn't I blame the event? You know, I didn't want it to rain on that day, so I blamed the rain. I didn't want that person to treat me that way, so I blamed that person. And so the list can go on and on and on. So he taught us that if 2 plus 2 is 4, okay? And the first 2 you can't change. And you don't like 4. I don't like 4. I want it to be 5. But you can't change the first 2. It's still 4, so I'm blaming the 2. I'm like, you know, it's that fault. But in the middle of that equation is an R. And where we have power in life is how we respond. So I could change that to a 3. Me, change the way I'm thinking, stop blaming, and then I got my 5. I have the outcome I want. I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So if I'm not, here's an example. The event of blindness. Diagnosed at age 9, declared legally blind at 13. For 10 years thereafter, I blamed the event. The event of, there's no doctors that can fix me. This God of my misunderstanding, higher power, whatever, created me this way. Why would you ever do something like that to a boy, a young boy that wants to be a jet fighter pilot, race cars, and do all sorts of fast things? and my parents, I blame them. Why did you have me? I would ask them. And I am a parent. I would crush me if my children asked me that. Now, just a quick side note. I have 2 sisters and a brother, so 4 out of 6 of us were all declared with juvenile macular degeneration, otherwise known as Stargardt's disease, in the late 70s. So That event pissed me off. Excuse my French, but I want to be real here. I was devastated. I blamed that event. I complained about that event. I defended my position, why I didn't do well in school, why the other kids weren't nice to me. Did I ever respond differently to it? No. I didn't know I had that ability. I was powerless over macular degeneration. I was powerless over a little disease in the back of my eye. It drove me into depression, self-pity, self-loathing, and in a place where all I saw was the event was the problem, not me. I couldn't possibly see that. I wanted a better outcome, but I knew it wasn't going to be possible for me. And before I dive more into that, could you share a little bit about one of your experiences with E+R=O?
Yeah, I think that a lot of parents that are watching will, and maybe adults that this was a fear when they were in school, will all relate to the situation where E+R=O was so. I had to let my son, Mitchell, experience the whole E+R=O so that he could really get a grasp on it. The situation I'm referring to that you might be able to put yourself in Mitch's spot was when he was a sophomore in high school. He came home from school the first day. This is a school that he had been to in freshman year. And his brother had been there, and he knew a lot of people there. But he came home from school the first day and said, "Mom, I sat alone at lunch today." And his sister is only 13 months younger than him, Carissa, and even she froze in the kitchen at the words, "I sat alone at lunch," in the high school lunch, right? First day of school. And I said, "Okay, you sat alone at lunch. Where were your friends that are in that lunch?" And he said, "I don't know anyone in the lunch." And I said, "Well, there's not that many lunches, and there's 500 kids in the class. You had to have known someone in there." So back up for a little background on this, when his sister that I mentioned, that was 2 years behind him in school, in August, well before the first day of school, when all the schedules came out of who had what lunch and what teacher, she was nonstop texting her friends to make a list of who was in what class with her, who was in lunch, who was in gym. She had a whole list of things. Mitchell refused to do the same thing. Mitchell at that point wanted no parts of thinking about school until he was forced to be in the school, so he wasn't giving any time from his summer to finding out who was where and doing what. So then, fast forward now, back to the first day. At the end of the first day, when he tells us that he sat alone at lunch, he had never done any of the front end work to find out who was in the lunch. And when you are almost completely blind, navigating a lunchroom with hundreds of kids in it in high school, quite challenging. So we discussed that night some strategies that he could do for the next day. And Mitchell's solution or suggestion, really it was a demand, was, no, Mom, there's no one that I know in that lunch, so you need to call the school and change my lunch. And I said, "I am not calling the school and changing your lunch. Let's put some strategies in place tomorrow." We went through a list of things he could do and figure it out tomorrow. So he came home from school the second day and said, "Mom, I sat alone at lunch today. I can't take it." And I said, and now Carissa, his sister, her ears are perking up, and she comes and sits next to him. And she said, "Mom, he can't sit alone at lunch. You got to figure this out for him." And I said, "Mitch, did you do all the things we talked about? Did you talk to the guidance counselor to find out the list of kids that are in that lunch?" "No, I'm not talking to my guidance counselor." "Okay. Did you talk to the kids in your classes leading up to lunch to ask who had that period lunch?" "No, I didn't talk to any of them. I just know that none of them are in that lunch." And we went through a few other strategies to use, and he didn't want to do any of them. He wanted me to change the lunch. And he said, "You have power with that school. You've always made things work. I need you to make this work. Why aren't you doing this for me?" And then there was a lovely yelling match, and a bedroom door slammed a few times from upstairs. And I had to dig in and not work this out for him and it was heart-wrenching as this week was progressing. All I kept thinking about was his older brother had just gone off to college. And Mitchell needed to be able to do that as well. And going off to college as a blind person is a heck of a lot different than going off as a sighted person. And Mitchell had to have strategies to find friends, socialize, figure out the things that I couldn't be on the college campus figuring out for him. I can say that with no tears or stress now, but it was one of the hardest weeks of my life. So fast forward through the week, it was the same thing every day. And the door slamming was getting louder. The yelling was getting louder. The tears were flowing more and more. And Carissa was so stressed out that she was starting to text him and check on him during the day. Mitchell's solution by Thursday was, I'm just going to go to the lunchroom the library every day and do my homework instead of going into the lunchroom. And we had a long conversation Thursday night about whether that was always going to be a response to handle situations like that in the rest of his life. What are you going to do in college? Always go to the library? Never socialize? You have to come up with strategies now to put in place and practice in a smaller environment. So, and Mitchell is also like, he wins every debate he's ever in. I mean, he can really debate you until you just want to cry and quit. So on Friday, he came home and Chris is now waiting for him and is so stressed out and said, what happened? Did you go and sit in the library by yourself? Did they let you do that? And he said, no. I went into the guidance counselor, asked her if she could read off the list of names of who's in my lunch. And it turns out 6 guys I know are in that lunch. So then step number 2, he had to get a group text going with the numbers of the guys that he had from that lunch and say, hey, can you look for me? I'm in the same lunch. Lo and behold, he gets to lunch. They were looking for him in the giant lunchroom and got him over to the table, and they decided to stay at that table for the rest of the year, so Mitchell always knew where the table was. Now, here's one of the things, Charlie, that is another piece of that puzzle with the E+R=O. I didn't just let it stop there that, okay, Mitch, you solved your problem. We did cheer, and I was celebrating that he took responsibility, and even though it was 5 days later, went and talked to that guidance counselor and did all the steps. What I sat down with Mitch and talked about over the next couple of weeks was the work on the front end that he never did in freshman year and in the summer to have completely avoided that situation. And that was in freshman year, he didn't really care for school. He didn't want to stay after school and get involved in clubs and meet new people. He was just happy with the kids he knew from middle school and didn't want to meet anybody new, didn't want to take part in anything. So in a class of 500 and some kids, that's a very small fraction of people that you know when you're only relying on the handful of guys that you knew in middle school. So that was issue number 1. He wasn't getting involved in anything. Then in the summer, he didn't want to invest any time in setting himself up for success in September. He didn't want to do that in the summer. We talked about that for a few weeks. He ended up getting involved I said, take one little step and just join one thing. He ended up joining the chess club, which he's very good at chess. He's very competitive. He only likes to do things that he wins. Whatever, he joined chess. He was winning everything. He became this phenomenal chess legend at his high school. But you know what? That created momentum that then he joined another thing that he was interested in and another thing. And by the summer before, that was sophomore year, by the summer before junior year, you better bet that he was texting all the people he knew to see who was in his lunch. And then he also found out who was in all the classes and did exactly what his sister had done. And junior year was so much more successful at the beginning than sophomore year. But, that event, it would have been very easy. Believe me, there was a big part of me that wanted to blame blindness for the fact that my kid couldn't find his friends in the lunchroom. It's blindness's fault, right? Because he can't see. Well, guess what? That's a fact of his life, and he has to figure stuff out around it. I wanted to change that event. I wanted to respond in a way that would have I could have had that lunch changed to wherever he wanted to be, and we never would have had that struggle, and his week would have been fine. But you know what? He never would have signed up for those clubs. We would have had a problem in junior year and in senior year and going off to college. Like, it snowballs. So we chose to tough it out. We put a lot of principles in place that week, but we created the momentum to success as opposed to the snowball to failure. It was hard though.
But worth it. And 5 days. Well, let's say responsibility didn't kick in really 100%. Okay, certain things I would admit to. 100%, come on. Even 99, it doesn't work. 100%, I'd think I was 40. So, and that's being honest. I mean, I took, who wants more responsibility? Especially parents and raising families and blind kids and navigating school and sports. And who wants more responsibility? That's not what we're talking about. You know what I mean? We're talking about taking. I can't give you responsibility. You get to be really, really selfish. This is the one thing you get to take. And take it 100% or suffer. Take responsibility. And maybe call it something softer. I have the ability to respond to life, what life presents on a daily basis in a way. Think. Don't respond. Don't react. Respond. Think. I had a reminder that came up on my computer when I started this transformation, and it came up when I got to work at lunch and before I went home, and it right in my screen, and it said, "Stop, reflect, think, then act." I mean, I needed a reminder for like 2 years to do that because I didn't stop. I didn't reflect. I thought fast and reacted and wondered why people were so irritating because it wasn't them. So I could say to you, Kristen, you have no idea what it's like to walk into a high school lunch as a blind person or someone with low vision. I could see the heads, the movement, but I too didn't plan. I just showed up. Oh my God, I don't know where any of my friends are sitting. This is so not fair. Look at all those sighted people. They can see someone way across the room and go, oh, Billy's 1,400 miles over there. I easily now can beeline over to hang out with my buddy Billy. I can't tell the person that just walked by me at a quick pace who that was. I think that was Bob, but it could have been Dave. Mm-hmm. And why wouldn't they say hi to me? Why wouldn't they say, hey, I see you over there. You look like you're blind. No, they don't say that, but well, that's what I thought. Look at the blind guy. Steer clear of him. He's irritating. He's needy. I had, when I don't take responsibility and I don't plan for a success in the lunchroom, then I suffer. But I blame. It's not my fault. I didn't ask for this blindness. It's these people. It's this stupid lunchroom, this stupid school. I mean, I really go down a rabbit hole of poor me. But like you said, what can I do? See, I love when people shift. Shift from I can't, this isn't working, people aren't fair, life sucks. This thing that triggers pretty easily in a human. But it's like, okay, that didn't work for me. I did not enjoy my lunch today. I felt alone and I was angry. But I'm sure there's a better way. And thankfully you were there to help guide it. But it's like, what can I do? Well, what could I have done? I could have said, hey, to a couple of my friends, I'm hitting this lunch period. Is there any way you can meet me at my locker? Or at the door to the lunchroom? I'm going to get there right after whatever period that was. And as I'm coming closer, call out, Charlie, we're right here. Why am I embarrassed about this stuff? Why? Because I'm different. I'm not one of them. I'm somebody else. And I'm irritating to people. They have to work harder to be my friend. I mean, I had every story, every justification, every reason to stay stuck in life, in this bondage. My book, Tripping into the Light, has me. No, it's not me, but it's a silhouette, and it shows prison doors open. Now, I haven't That wasn't me getting out of prison. It was getting me releasing the prison of my mind and walking into the light of true freedom and happiness, which is possible. Whatever adversity you face, whatever loss has happened, whatever blindness you may have, this formula works for everybody, anybody and everybody. And I talked earlier about E+R=O. And what happened? How did I start to wake up to, if I'm powerless, that means events shape me. I have no control to change the event. The event was terrible. I was 16 years old. I can't get my driver's license. I'm angry. Period. Now, what do you mean? That event is torture to me. And the outcome was I was mad. I stole my parents' car a few times. I did a few things because I wanted to show to somebody, I don't know who, that I'm not less than. Just because I can't get a license doesn't mean I don't know how to drive a car. I didn't know I had the ability to respond to the fact I can't ever get a driver's license legally. I can't ever go and pick up a date and say, would you like to go to the movies? I could say, hi, would you like to go to the movies? Here's my address. Can you pick me up? And that's not fair. Well, welcome to life. That shouldn't happen to me. Well, it does. That is, and when I blame this stuff and not learn what can I do? I can be me. I can be the fun guy, people don't judge him. Maybe there are people. Okay, yes. Maybe there are people like, I don't want to hang out with that dude. He's visually impaired. I don't like that. Fine. I mean, we weren't going to be friends. But don't think that people have a checklist when I come walking up. Well, blindness, oh, he's a little short. Maybe he isn't in the honor roll. So they have this checklist, so he doesn't fit to my standard of friends. I thought, gosh, the competition of others was so intense. So I just started being me. It took years. I just said, Kristen, you didn't, well, okay, you're an exception. You have blind kids. But I have neighbors, and I said, hi. Welcome to the neighborhood. Let me rephrase that. Hi, welcome to my neighborhood.
Charlie Town.
We have rules. Yeah. I said, and, I know you're way over here and this and that, but here's the deal. We've been here, give a little history, and I'm so happy to have you here in our neighborhood and all that. Well, I want to tell you something. I'm legally blind. Why do I tell you that? Well, what I find is that you might be standing in your driveway waving at me, and I could be looking like I'm staring at you, but guess what? I don't see you. So it's not that I don't like you, or I'm a mean guy who only is nice when I'm introducing myself. The truth of the matter is I don't see you. What would work for me is if you hollered out, hey, Charlie, it's Jeff. What's up, dude? And guess what? They do that. Is that a burden to them? No.
Yeah.
No, not at all. They like doing that because they feel good about me knowing it makes a connection. So the event, how I responded to that event, gave me a much better, a more content, happy feeling. It's like I could have blamed, or he could have blamed. Said, that guy's so mean. You know what I mean? These things in life, if I plug in almost anything to this formula, it transforms the outcomes of my lives and others. And I mean, that's why this is a foundational principle. Otherwise, we'll fall into blaming, complaining, rationalizing. What rationalizing is really rational lies. That we tell ourselves that we now believe this delusion is this fancied situation that's not really happening, but I am presenting it in my mind. I show up as somebody who is justifying, defending, and then I become excuse making. Do you know that 99% of failure comes from people who have the habit of making excuses. I'm late because I didn't get a good grade on this test because of the teacher. It had nothing to do with the fact I didn't study enough. They didn't present it in the right format for me. Oh, did you have that discussion on the best format to help you be successful in that classroom? Oh, gosh, no. They should just know. So it's like, and that world, that forms a prison of the mind. That world creates a bias for blind people. Because now, when I speak or I go out and I say, out of the 6 children, 4 out of 6 of us were diagnosed in the late 70s, and I was one of the lucky ones. And I say it with a little bit of a tone. And people, and I'll say, are you kidding me? I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I tried that for many years, and I almost died. I don't want you at all. I take responsibility for my life today. I'm sharing my story to help you move from where you are, to help move you into a place of true freedom and happiness. And stop blaming your doctor, your eye disease, for your suffering. It's your fault.
I'm sitting here thinking, Charlie, about you're talking about I'm envisioning high school, and trying to find kids in the lunchroom, and all the things that probably people that are watching and listening to this are thinking about a high school experience and being blind, and all the things that you probably are imagining my sons are left out of. But let me switch some minds here. In terms of this E+R=O, my Michael, my older blind son, is phenomenal at E+R=O. And he's also a pre-law. They told him back in 7th grade he should go pre-law because he can find loopholes in everything. He does it with sincere charm. But anyway, this fun story before we wrap up. When he was a sophomore, one of the biggest things, and Charlie, you mentioned it about driving, especially for guys, it's a big thing if you can't drive with, blindness and visual impairment. And people tend to do that, like you said, Charlie, like the crowd did. And Michael did struggle for a little bit about the fact when his 16th birthday was coming and he wasn't going to be able to drive. But when he really broke it down, what was frustrating him was that blindness was causing he would have to take the school bus junior and senior year. And around us, most juniors and seniors have a car and are not on the school bus. And Michael used that. He was determined to not be on that school bus, but I was not in a position that I could drive him every day. So that was off the table. So Michael looked into the rules of getting a parking pass in the honors lot. So the honors lot our school is huge. It is ginormous. It's beyond huge. The campus is so big, but if you make a certain GPA, they reward you with this special, very close lot that the students can park in and have better access to the school. Michael looks up the rules of the honors lot. Nowhere did it say you had to be sighted. It didn't even say that the person with the pass had to be a licensed driver. It just talked about the GPA and some rules of the parking lot. So Michael went and got the parking pass, the special $50 golden honors lot pass, and then he texted his friends that he knew they didn't make the GPA, and they were furious that they were going to have to walk up this giant hill from, they called the loser's lot because they didn't have the honors lot pass. Texted them all and said, I've got an honors lot pass. If you pick me up, you can use my honors lot pass, whoever's car I'm in. He had a list of kids that would pick him up. They were all on a different schedule. And his thing was, if you were late twice, you were booted off the schedule, because he also wanted to make sure he wasn't at the mercy of someone else when they felt like getting out of bed and they would have to walk up the hill. And he had, and I'm telling you, not one day in junior and senior year was he on a school bus. He was always in a car. And he's like, Mom, kids around here have some nice cars too. He was arriving in some nice cars. He also had people to walk into school with in the morning. That was a challenge when he was getting off the bus and finding friends. It just, I will say though, Charlie, that the secretary at the school was a little nervous when she saw us in the line for the pass. And she said, Kristen, he's not driving a car, is he? I said, No, he hasn't figured that out yet.
Oh, come on.
He does keep emailing Elon saying he wants to be the first Philly test driver for the Tesla, the blind test driver, to see if they can work that out. But anyway, he definitely puts a fun spin on it.
If a Tesla can pick me up at 30th Station and bring me to your house, they got it figured out.
E+R equals O can be super fun in once you start taking responsibility. You can have really fun outcomes, like a ride to school every day.
Somehow, somewhere, someday, nobody is showing up. There's nobody showing up at your front door who's going to walk in and solve the problems you've created. There is no one you can pay to do your push-ups. There is no one that's going to take responsibility for you. If you are someone who has people in your life who enable you, who do for you what you can do for yourself, and you know it, shame on you and shame on them. Because that is what's creating the suffering here in your life and in my life. If I want to throw up the towel, throw it in, it's too hard, life's pressures, why is this happening to me? Then I'm going to pay the price. I might start pointing out, saying, it's not me, it's you. I might start not looking inside. It'll become an exterior problem. And there is no such thing unless you have a house and you have a hole in the side. That's an exterior problem. But the problems we have are interior. It's us thinking it should be different. They should be different. It should be different. Someday is not going to happen. Nobody should be any different than they are. If you want to succeed without sight, succeed as a family, succeed as a parent, then you must, and this is not a suggestion, I'm just telling you from experience, as you heard from with Kristen too, you must start practicing and then taking 100, not 99, because that little 1% will create more suffering in your life. And okay, it's not easy. Well, what is? I guess sleeping? Well, maybe it isn't for some people, so I'm not going to try to figure out what's easy. Life is not easy. Life is not, you're not entitled to a good life. You don't deserve anything. So get over it. I know this is not easy for me to hear, but my God, you want to talk about blindsided. You know, the new playlist I just added is blindsighted. But I was blindsided. Wham! It woke me up. I never knew. I didn't know to look at life that way. I didn't realize that I was giving away my power to the disease in my eye, to the event of the life. And I was suffering the outcomes. And I said, I can't believe this is as good as it's going to get. That was a lie. And because of this formula, because I had started putting the right people in my life, my self-esteem started to raise. The confidence started to raise in myself. I started to believe it was possible, believing in myself. I started connecting with others. My relationships improved, and life took on new meaning and purpose. And that's why we have formed the Thriving Blind Academy. We want you all to come in and join this journey with us. And please share this with your friends. And Kristen, take us on out.
Well, I do have to say, to wrap up this little bit of tough love that we're doing here, for those of you that are thinking, can I really do this? It's been so long that I've been suffering. Yeah, you can, because Charlie and I have been in your shoes. We were in the suffering zone, and now we are in the thriving zone, and it's a much more fun place. It's a much more fun place to be in the thriving zone. Make the lean over to the success and thriving mindset. Get out of the suffering where you're blaming everybody else. Take responsibility. Like Charlie said, it is not easy, but it is not, you will get out of the suffering. Come into Thriving Blind Academy. Watch the rest of the videos that are on this channel. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification thing so that you get the new ones, because What we don't want is for you to just have one video and you think that's going to power you to take responsibility and everything's going to change. It's a journey. It's a process. And we're here to be on it with you. Make sure you share it with somebody that needs to hear this message today too. And we'll see you in the next one.
Oh, but wait, there's more. Don't forget, down below, add your feedback, your comments, and we look forward to seeing you next time.